I will try to make it a presentation which will take 20 minutes and to really allow you to ask questions, challenging one. I heard from my colleagues that you had some very challenging questions, so looking forward for the last one, just for me, but my pleasure to have this interaction with you. First, I want to introduce my... You don't like my voice? Is it better? Okay. Yeah, it's really better? Okay, good. So, Schneider Electric, even if the way that Rob introduced my name was fantastic, he said Grugier. Wow. Okay, my real name is Grugier, okay? I'm French, okay? So, the way that you said that was fantastic. Schneider Electric is a global company, an international company that I will introduce to you a little bit further. But we were born in France 140 years ago, in Burgundy, which is a great place to be, by the way, for the one who appreciate wine. And we are the specialists in energy management and automation. And what we are doing in diversity and inclusion, we try to prove that it can work. So what I will show you is some initiative that we try, that we implement, that we experiment. Some are successful, some are less, but at least we try. And I will also show you some data on some proof of concept and share with you a little bit further. So first, as a company, we have a great purpose. We believe that energy is a basic human right. And if I would have time, I would have asked you the question, do you know how many people in the world don't yet have access to energy? My colleague from Schneider are not allowed to answer. 1 billion of people don't have access to energy yet. What does it mean? It means that the young boy and the young girl don't have access to education. They cannot have a book, because when they got back home, if they have no light, when the sun is going down, they cannot read. It seems so far from our world. Okay, so far. I am the first one complaining when my iPhone battery is going over. But 1 billion of people still don't have that basic access to energy. So our purpose as a company is to ensure that we provide to everyone energy everywhere at every moment. Oops. So who we are? We are the leader in digital transformation of energy management and automation. What does it mean? Whatever there is energy, if there is not, we want to provide it. If you have energy, we are the company that can help you to save money with this energy management and to make the planet greener. The revenue is close to 25 billion euro last year. We have 5% of the revenue that we put in research and development since 50 years. So you can imagine that for us, tech is super important. Engineer is a big part of our workforce. We are a tech and innovative company. 5% of the revenue are reinvested every year in research and development everywhere in the world. We have some research and development center everywhere. We have some big one in France. We have some big one in Asia. We have some big one in North America. We have everywhere some research and development center on which we are welcoming engineers. I am the head of HR for supply chain. I am welcoming a lot of engineers in supply chain too. 140,000 people everywhere in the world. We are present in 130 countries, roughly. To give you some number, the organization that I am leading, 200 factories, 80 distribution centers, and 2,000 of people that are dealing with procurement. So big part of it. The revenue that we see are quite balanced, which was not the case before. Why I do insist on that is that I will tell you about a specific initiative that we have regarding multi-hub. The purpose for us is that any of our employees, wherever he is located, can be in charge of a global role. More to come. So as I said to you, we are a tech company. What do? We reshape industry, we make it more modern, we make it less energy consuming. We are working on CO2 emission. We help our customer to reduce their CO2 emission with good energy. We transform the city. We have plenty of contract with city to manage the energy of the city, the traffic in the city. And you know that the number of mega cities will increase drastically in the coming 20 years. So it's a big, big concern for the government and the city lawyer today, how to manage that. And we are able to manage the grid on a city and to manage the power that each city is using to ensure a good balance and a good thing on that. Then we enrich life with a lot of applications that help people to be better and to manage more their energy too. Let's talk about D&I. Diversity and inclusion. Even if personally, but don't repeat that to my boss, I would prefer that we talked about inclusion and diversity. Thank you. Diversity is the result of an inclusion culture. Okay, we started a few years ago, like the other company, to talk about only diversity, mainly about gender diversity. Now we are talking more and more about wider diversity, and we talk more and more about inclusion. What we have there, we empowered all the kind of diversity. I will not go through all the list, but some of them are quite new. If we talk about the LGBT, for example, it's something that we are promoting now, that we are sharing, but not everywhere in the world. We are still aware that someplace in the world this is illegal. So we push it when it makes sense. When the country and the ready and our employees are ready, that we talk to it, we talk about it. If in the country it's illegal, we will not push it as a company. This is not the purpose. I can add also in that column profile. An example that I give regularly is that diversity is key to have innovation in company. The worst would to have a team of 20 young women, all the same age, coming from the same schools. This is not diversity. It would be super good in the ratio, okay, but it will not bring added value to the business. So the key point is to be balanced there. And I am a big fan of more women in the tech job. Huh? Don't misunderstand my point. The key point is whatever the job you have, you need to maintain all kind of diversity, and profile is the key too. We know that it's much more easy to attract people that are coming from the same schools that you are, with the same kind of football supportive, blah, blah, blah. But this is not diversity. Diversity is be able to attract people that are coming from another education background, another company, another gender, another generation, another country. This is diversity. On the second part, we have some inclusive practice, and I will go back on some of those later a bit. I will talk a lot to you about the family leave policy that we implemented 1 year ago. Just take advantage of this to talk to you about what is the multi-hub that I was touching previously. 10 years ago, if you were in Schneider Electric and if you wanted to have a global role, you need to be located in Paris. Okay, there is a worse place in the world. Agree. But we have some people that are having family, like everywhere, that are living in Singapore, as an example, which is also a great place. And for family reasons, they don't want to move the children from their school. Their husband or the wife is having a job in Singapore. And for them, moving in Paris is not an option. But we want to take benefit of those guys. So what do? We create what we call a multi-hub approach, meaning that instead of having one headquarter, we are having one headquarter per continent from where our people can lead some global role. The ExCom member of the company today, 2 of them are based in Paris, including the French lady who is leading the French territory. 3 or 4 of them are located in Hong Kong. Some other of them are located in Boston, and some other of them are located in Dubai. Meaning that if today you are in Schneider Electric, you are a good profile for the company, you want to have a global role, you can do it from several places in the world. You don't have to move all your family only in Paris to get those roles. This is our multi-hub approach. It doesn't mean that we don't have people that are having external exposure and international exposure, but at least you can lead those kind of global roles even if you stay where you live. Oops. I have the click quite dynamic this afternoon, that's good. Inclusive behavior. I heard a lot those last 2 days since I am there about the hidden bias. Key point. And I have to admit that I have hidden bias too. It was not an easy moment, but it's better. I'm better now that I know that when I didn't know about it. So what we are doing there, we train all our executive leaders. Our top 1,000 leaders are having 4 hours of face-to-face training on hidden bias, and we are now going deeper in the organization, at least to have awareness about it. What does it mean, and what is our own personal hidden bias? Advocacy. Schneider was a company that was not talking outside. Since several years, we are talking outside, one of the reasons that I am there. And we are now a big advocate of E4She, for example, that I will cover later on. Gender diversity is on top of strategic agenda. Women in leadership, we have a learning there that I will cover. Just for you to know, at the ExCom level today, we have 3 women. Those 3 ladies are part of the company since only less than 6 years. So it was a political decision to go externally and to hire women to take some ExCom position. That's the reason why 3 of them are now part of the ExCom. And you know what? They are not the HR leader and they are not the finance leader. One is leading France territory, which is the 3rd territory that we have in the company. One is leading the global marketing function. She's making an amazing job by challenging and checking all the company on that. The 3rd one is my boss. He's leading the global supply chain and North America operation. So those 3 ladies are having super, super critical role, and they are successful. Isn't it fantastic? I will accelerate a little bit. So Women in Leadership. Women in Leadership is an education program that we launched 6 years ago. 3.5 days, only with women, that we are putting in some meeting room, training session, on which they focus on themselves only. What are their blocking points? What do we need to do to help them to be better and to sell themselves better? I am using words that are not on the slide on purpose. The question is, how, as women, we help those ladies to raise the hand instead of waiting that, oh, but if I am the one, they will know and they will come to look at me. It do not work. So we are just training those ladies to be self-aware about their own strengths, about self-aware about their own area of improvement, and help them to have a better career in the company. This is really, really successful, and we do it by big region. So this week, for example, there was one session in Barcelona, and we had one in US last week, and there was one in Asia in the coming 2 weeks. It's super successful, working really well, and our women really enjoy it. Global family leave policy, we launched 1 year ago now, the best family leave policy that exists in the world for any company. This is covering all kind of family, This is super inclusive, and this is helping our employee and supporting our employee, whatever is happening in your family. Good news, baby, but also adoption. Whatever the kind of couple you are, you have the same right to take days off, to take into account the newcomer in your family. It's also covering bad news, how you support family, friends, when there is some health issue or some further bad news in the family. Hidden bias, I think I already covered it. And in E4She, We were one of the top 10 companies selected by E4She when the movement was launched by Emma Watson in 2013. Our CEO, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, was one of the first ones to sign for it. And you have here some figures that are showing you where we are and what are our three main areas of commitment. Gender pay equity, which is a big, big one. And we are still not at the level that we want to be, but it's improving. And the key point is that it's improving. And now, whatever the country you are, if you are hired tomorrow, okay, or next Monday, you will get the same compensation package that any man that will be hired at the same point. There is no way in Schneider that there is compensation difference on the hiring standpoint. Women hiring, you can see how we increased those last year. Not yet at the level that we want to be, because we want to be at 50 in 2020. But we are struggling, like all the company are, to attract, and a lot of work on that, with SWE, by the way. And then we have executive level champion, D&I, hidden bias education, and mentoring. You have on the right part some figures where we are in terms of percentage. I can go a little bit further during the Q&A on that. On the tech part of it, what we do is that we don't take that one size fits all. We don't approach women in tech job like we approach women for HR, for example, or women for finance. Tech is a specific case, and we have a specific process to approach women in the tech job. First, we attract and we identify, and we have inside very good acceleration and development program. As you can see, at the global company level, we have 42% of women, only 20 at the top. How we ensure that this 42 is increasing on one hand, and on the other hand, will come at the top too. Why we have half of the women at the top level of the company that we have in average? So the key focus that we have is to develop this middle career place where the women are, to ensure that tomorrow, one job on top of two will be led by a woman in our company. Not easy, huh? And we are learning by implementing it. Don't ask me the magic recipe to do it. There are several magic recipes, because we are all different, and the answer that might be relevant for me might not be relevant for someone else. So the gender program, the practice, the behavior, and what we put in the middle here is the dream that we all have as manager. We want our manager to be inclusive leader. Again, same all type of diversity. A great leader, what is a great leader in our definition, is someone that I want to work with. I don't know for you, but at least for me, when I take a job, the content of the job is important. Yes. The compensation is important. No? Okay, no. But the one for whom I will work is the most important. The boss is the one making me taking the job, or I still staying in the role, whatever the turbulence I am facing. And we are totally convinced that with the shortage of talent that we are facing, that we start to face, that we will face more tomorrow, now it's quite easy to know how the manager is. You go to Glassdoor and you see that people are quoting the company, quoting the management, and so on. If you are not a good manager, people will not come to work with you. That's as simple as it is. So there is no way that a company can be successful, whatever the size of the company it is, without people that have the right behavior, able to develop and coach their people, and to be a great leader. And tech savvy. If you are not able to talk the same language at your team, forget about it. So that's the kind of magic bubble that we have there. And we tracked, okay, we are engineers also, huh? So we track the result. Now the joke here is more to see, is that paying? Is that what we are implementing showing some progress? Are we in the right direction or aren't we? This is the only purpose. What I put you there, and I will stop here to let place to Q&A, is some example of, and I have three, so I can share the slide later on. I will not cover the three now. Some of the women profile that we have and how they evolve in the company. So you have Mercedes here. On the top of the slide, you have where she's working, location, or seniority. In the middle, you have the career path that she has followed since she joined the company, with all the kind of development program that she followed and the development action. And on the bottom part, you are how our policy, our practice are supporting the career of those ladies. So you have the example of Mercedes here, which is really successful. You have here another one which is even more interesting, which is Uyanga. Uyanga is coming from Mongolia. She started in Japan, she went back to Mongolia, she went back to Japan, now she's in Paris in few months. Everything following family, how we embark her family with her, and so on and so forth. Last but not least, in the appendix, I put also an example of a French lady who has a global career. She started in Grenoble, in great place in France. She's still in Grenoble, but the career is grazing like that. So the options are different depending of your own willingness and your family ability to follow geographically you or not. So just 3 words to conclude. First, one convinced that women in technology are the leader that we need. No doubt around that. And what we do there, lead with leadership. This is what I was talking. First, if you are not an inclusive leader in Schneider, sorry, but you may don't have a job of leader tomorrow. We still have some. I'm super transparent with you. It's a journey, you know. We will not make the world perfect in only one night, and we are aware about that. And probably the world will never be perfect. The key point is our willingness is to go there. So we are day-to-day improving to go there. Then, please, raise your hand. Raise your hand as women. Don't wait that we come to select you. Show that you have interest to grow in your career. Show that you have interest to be part of a project when nobody was thinking about you. Show that you have better innovative idea that anybody else will have. So dare to disrupt is really the key. It's true for men too, but it's 10 times more true for women. Leave a legacy. It's not just about you, but it's what you will let to the company or to your team when you will leave. If you build an inclusive team, as an example, if you're able to welcome people that are diverse and to let them be successful, you can easily understand that when they will be leader themselves, they will have that in mind and they will try also to build a diverse team. Happy to take your question.
Do I need to do so? Okay, great. Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I had a question about, there's a Deloitte study done last year. It was the HR global survey that they do with executives. And 80% of close to 80% of the executives said that D&I is basically one of the most important issues. And I don't think we're surprised about that. But one of the things that came up is 6% of those companies are tying D&I outcomes to compensation. Do you think that should be, that more companies should be doing that? In terms of the executives and leadership, if that is a value of, certainly a espoused value of the organization, should that be something that executives are held accountable for and impacting their compensation?
We know at the end that quite a lot of questions in the company are related to budget. I don't know in which company you are working, but okay. We know that money is key, and at home too. And if we don't have the commitment of the top of the company to close that gap in compensation, it will never happen. Because at the end, it will always be someone who needs to sign an extra budget. Because declaring that at the beginning, we hire the people all at the same level, it's quite easy, if I may say. Then declaring that we want to close the gap in less than 3 years, meaning that either we put additional budget, either we stop to increase men. if we stay inclusive, let's add additional budget. Okay, if not, we will create an internal war, which is not good. No, the key point is yes, the executive committee and the boss need to be the first one to say, I want equity in the compensation of any people in the company. I'm totally convinced about it. The key point is how we make that becoming a foundation and not anymore an action plan. The sooner, the best.
And if someone's performance as a leader, if they're not in line with the values or the D&I values, or as you mentioned, the D&I ambition and agenda, should they essentially be dinged for that? Is that something that they should be?
In the way that we are doing that in Schneider Electric, I am manager too. I am assessed every year, both on what result I achieve, but also on how did I achieve those results. So I am also assessed on leadership value. Am I a team builder? I am collaborating well? Am I blah, blah, blah? So, okay, we have 6. It's even more important in the discussion than the what, because at the end of the year, everybody knows what did you achieve or not. But the how you achieve it. And if you are not at the right level with the leadership behavior, people were demoted, people were fired. I'm talking about the top of the company there. And people left the company just because, sorry, probably you are good in achieving whatever KPI you are, but if you don't do that with the right behavior, it's not aligned with Schneider value. So, sorry, but end of the story. And again, I'm talking like a book. We still have people that are not behaving the way that we want. But at least what we want to achieve is that people are aligned with the leadership expectation.
Yeah, and that was sort of my next question. Is just around, so you mentioned the D&I ambition, the agenda. But what have been the biggest challenges in the implementation there? So, because I mean, the numbers that you're showing are fantastic, and certainly Schneider's made a ton of headway under your tenure. But what have you seen as like some of the biggest challenges, and what you've done to sort of mitigate that along the way?
The biggest is the hidden bias. We are all convinced that this lady, no, we cannot suggest her the job because she just got a baby. Stop, go and ask her. Please, that's it. And which is difficult because if it's really based on one-to-one discussion and conviction. So it's taking a huge amount of time to make it happen. And that's why it's so long, because it's not a magic action plan that's okay. Everybody needs to be, to have green shirt tomorrow. It's not as easy as it is. It needs to be individual discussion day after day on any specific case. And the example that are taking for women right now, which make me quite positive, is that it's also start to happen with young men that we are recruiting, okay, who says, I'm super happy to join your company, but you know that I am the one taking care about the children, so forget about me after 5 p.m. because I am the one picking up the children at school. And those guys will help us tremendously to make the thing change in our company. And in the world, if I may say.
Yeah. And I just had one more question that I was going to open up to the folks that are here. With your Women in Leadership program, and because we were talking earlier before the keynote, that it's localized, and I think you mentioned that as well. Do you tailor it specifically to those countries? So is the curriculum different in each place around the world, or is it
No, it's exactly the same program. Mm-hmm. The fact that we regionalize it for 2 main reasons. First, it's easier to manage, okay? And second, it avoids the women to travel during the weekend. Because it's 3.5 days of training. If you are based in Asia and you need to travel in US to take it, you don't have any choice. There is one Sunday that you will not spend with the family. So the key point is if you make it regional, we all know connecting regionally, okay, it's 3-4 hours, but at least it's not killing, if I may say, any weekend. So first it's a question of work-life balance, and the second is that it's easier also to organize regionally.
Just as a follow-on, I mean, are there some things that you've learned from the program that have been sort of like some ahas, or some things that have been surprises that and doing it since I think you said 2012. For as much as it's a learning experience for them, I'm sure it's a learning experience for the people that are running the program. So there's some things that have come out that have helped the program evolve and be more impactful.
When we launched the program, we were quite convinced that we will be able to stop it after 5 years because the world have changed. No way. So we will launch it. Now, what we learn is that those kind of behavior are so deep in the way that we think, in the way that we are all educated, that we need to continue, and that the company have a key role to play on that.
Well, now I'd like to open up to everyone here. If does anyone have any questions? And if like before, if you could just mention your name and your company. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going back. I'm just taking some water. I'm listening to you.
Yes, it's Aisling Hinderleiter from Caterpillar, and I'm just wondering if you have found a way to tie value to your diversity and inclusion activities in your company so you can demonstrate financial results to your shareholders.
We try to make some parallel first on the engagement survey with the level of engagement of our people with the diversity. We try to make some correlation, and we have made some correlation also on the sales percentage of growth regarding the diversity that we have in some team and that we don't have. It's not really a business case, but when we are starting to explain that a team with more women is having more growth than a team with less women, this slide is enough. You don't need to go through tons of slides to convince. It's not really business case. It's super complicated to put figures, frankly speaking. So we prefer to make it pragmatic and to say, guys, let's look at some benchmark. And we do internal benchmark. More than business case that would take years to build, and at the end that everybody will challenge the figures that we put in.
Other question there?
Hi, very interesting lecture. I'm Tiferet Kronfeld from Intel. Could you elaborate more about the pipeline and the leadership program that you built?
Yeah. So on the pipeline, we have quite classical process, I guess, the talent review, the development review, all kind. We don't have any assessment center yet in Schneider Electric, something that we had a few years ago and then we let it go. But we have some very quite solid development review and talent review processes that are in place. The challenge that we have right now is how we identify people that are lower in the organization with high potential. I didn't mention that, but our company has grown as twice the size in less than 10 years through acquisition and through organic growth. So we had some process previously that were quite easy. The way that I was identified to become, when I was identified at 32, something like that, to become a plant manager, we were a company of 50,000. How can I identify now the same level of people with a company which is 3 times that size? It's far much more difficult. So what we try to do is to be able to have a deep knowledge of our people to ensure that we're able to identify the ones that are the future leader of the company. And on the leadership program, what we develop on the leaders program standpoint, we developed since 1 year a program with INSEAD, and on which we have all the managers that are going through a 1 or 2 week intense learning session. And this program are absolutely not focused on academic. They are focused on you as an individual, the role that you play in a group. Are you contributing to the group? Are you someone who is slowing down the group dynamic? Are you someone who is just passive and not bringing added value?
All right, I know we had a couple hands back there. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Severance from Cummins. I was really interested in the employee profiles you put up, and I wondered if you could say a bit more about who you do them for, who populates them, and how you use them.
The way that we build, I will explain you the way that we build those slides. We ask, it's okay, do you have any ladies who are ready to share their story? and we get, I put 3 in the deck, but we have plenty. And they just raise their hand to demonstrate the career that they have. We try internally to really leverage the women that we have, and mainly the tech one. Okay, not not the HR, sorry for the HR, but I'm talking about HR because I'm HR, it's easier to, okay? But the tech lady, because their career, this is the way that we will convince younger women to go in the tech. You know, it's not me as HR going say, oh, come, we are the best company that you could join, blah, blah, blah. They will hear that speech 20 times. But having one lady who is, I have an example of one who I am collaborating a lot, procurement, purchasing, depending on the leaders. She is 35. She's a mom of 3 young boys. When she comes and she's telling her own story and the way that she balances and she managed the family, the job, to the students, she's even more powerful than any student fair that we can do. Sorry for my talent acquisition colleagues, but you know, because this is the truth. This is what you want to hear when you are a teenager. So we try to leverage those ready who are willing to do it, to share their story, and then to identify and make it better. It's not easy in all the country. Huh? To be totally transparent.
Question in the back.
Hello, I'm Ingela. I'm from Sweden. As probably some of you know, Sweden has come pretty far when it comes to equality. And I think one of the most important things for enhancing equality is this with parental leave, that we have similar possibilities to take out our parental leave. So, for instance, in our engineering department, we have men that have been home with their kids for about 6 to 12 months, actually. And same with the women. So it's no difference, really. So when you hire a man or a woman that is in that age of, you know, risking to become pregnant or having child, it's no difference if you're a man or a woman. I think that is one leading thing, and I'm very happy to be living in Sweden, actually, because of that reason. So my question really is, what do you think that a company can do to help governments see that this is so important and that this is really the basic? What can you do to affect the governments?
The way that it's an excellent question, and I must admit in front of you, okay, it's registered, but it's not a big deal, that when I was HR for logistics in EMEA, the first time that I met a guy who told me, you know, I will go to paternity leave in the coming 6 months. Hopefully, I had a chair. Sorry, can you repeat what you are saying to me? Yeah, and that's true, and that's a fantastic, you know, it's really the optimum, I think, of the family leave policy, what is happening in Sweden. Then, we need also to be aware that there are some countries where maternity leave do not exist. It's the company to decide it. So what we have done by having this global family leave policy, we set up a minimum that at the company level, we don't want any country, any people of Schneider Electric in the country to be below that, right? Then everybody can go above. And this is the way that we try to influence locally, because at the global level, you cannot define that it's 6 plus 6 for Sweden, for example. Okay, it's 12 months to be shared between the two parents, and that in country where it's 0, we cannot impose that it needs to become 2 plus 2. We cannot. But we can influence locally, because our country HR are the one connected to the local government there, and by providing a global policy to say, sorry, but in Schneider, it cannot be less than X day plus X day, then we start to have open discussion with government and to help the government to switch. But it can only happen locally with some members that are talking, with people that are talking to people. Okay, it cannot come from a global policy from the company level. But we try to do it locally, and my colleagues who are HR of one specific country are having that discussion with the local government. And quite often the big companies are regrouping together to have that discussion, which is good.
Okay. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. I don't know who's up first. I think maybe you. Okay, sorry, John.
Okay, my name is Jessica Köhler. I'm working for Continental. You have mentioned that you have assessment once a year and saying, okay, what are the results and also how to do that. How you measure that? Because I think the results, you have a lot of KPIs or whatever, but how doing things, how do you measure this in your company, saying this was good or not good done and so on?
it's based on feedback from my peers, from my team members, and from my bosses. Meaning that when I have this, it's a kind of light 360. I don't know how to call it because it's an internal tool. So, I have some of my direct reports, some of my peers, and mandatory my bosses. And I say bosses because a big company I have more than one that are assessing me. Okay, do we see Sophie as a team builder or the team developer? If I put myself as, yes, super, I am the best one, and they put myself as, no, then we discuss. And we build action plan because this is what is feeding my individual development plan too. Okay, so we are doing an individual assessment. We don't use those data to reflect on the discussion that was before to make some global figures on that because it do not make sense. Depending if you are leading a team of manuf, HR, tech, if you do it in Mexico, in France, in Spain, or in China, or in Malaysia. So we don't use that, but as individual, it's super powerful.
Okay, I think do we have time for one more question, Rebecca? One more question. John is here. The president gets, yes. Yeah, close this out. All right.
Okay. So Sophie, can you elaborate a little on how your prior engineering career influenced, informed, helped in your journey in HR?
I was expecting not to have this one. I'm kidding. That's not true. First, my engineer background helped me to get a job first and to enter in my first company. It was not easy. It was 30 years ago. I was in the electronic industry. People were telling me, oh, no, not a woman in that, blah, blah, blah. So it took me a while to get a job. But when I was able to enter in a company, then my career accelerated, which was good. So this helped me to get some managerial role. And I think what is interesting in my profile, if I may say, is that whatever the job I'm doing, I am able to use the same vocab and the same language that my colleague and the people that are supporting. When I become a plant manager, I was able to have discussion with my quality people, with my methods people, with my maintenance people, because the word that they were using, I was able to understand that. So my job was to be the best manager of the plant, absolutely, but my job was also to help them to resolve problems. So that's the engineer background helped me to do so. And then what is good is engineer background is that it provides you the capability to learn and to work in project team. And if you go to, I don't want to say university because I don't want to blame anyone, but there are some kinds of education that are super individual basis. What is super good in engineer is that you learn how to work in group, how to work in project mode. And in a company, you never work alone. Nobody is working alone, or if it is, it will not. Okay, it's for a short period of time. But all of us who are working in team, project, and so on, and that's what my engineer bring to me. This is ability to work in a group and to be part of a group, if I may say. Then in HR, it's a little bit the same answer. I was able to understand what were the issues that my team colleagues were facing. So that's it. And okay, and I'm on a joke standpoint, probably I know better than any of my HR colleagues how to use Excel.
All right. So I think that concludes our keynote. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And how about a big hand for Sophie? Thank you.